I never get tired of that. Like, I'm always rocking out by the time the camera goes on. Of course, I'm kind of always rocking out. Hey, I don't know if you guys are checking it out, but if you go to markmeckler.com, we can get more intimate over there. Now, don't be intimidated by intimate. I don't mean intimate. I mean, we can get to know each other better. That's my community, markmeckler.com. If you go over there, you can kind of get a peek into my life. I'm doing some musings from the gym. You guys probably know I spend a lot of time in the gym. That's kind of where I clear my head. So go to markmeckler.com. You can go over there. You can get signed up. If you get signed up, by the way, you can look for free, but if you want to participate, it's $5 a month minimum. Some people give more, 10, 15, 25. I have folks who are signed up for $100 a month. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. All of that money, by the way, goes through to convention estates. We pay a small fee to the folks that host it. The rest goes to convention estates to support the movement. So again, markmeckler.com. If you're curious, tonight I posted over there my favorite playlist for being in the gym. I have a sort of classic rock playlist. I love all kinds of music, everything from classic rock to classic jazz to fusion to classical, you name it. But my rock and roll playlist is over there. If you guys want to check that out and share that on Spotify, you can check it out. You can look that up. Go to markmeckler.com, get signed up. I also want to thank the folks over at Defender Gear. Right, I got one of my Defender Gear shirts on. Hopefully you guys can see this. I love these shirts, high quality. These guys are the best. The company's based in America. They're great patriots. They're folks of faith like me. I really love them. Joe and the team over at Defender Gear. If you go to defender-gear.com, defender-gear.com, don't forget the dash, defender-gear.com. You go place an order and you put COS Action 10 in the order. That's COS Action 10. You'll see the place where you can put in your special code. You're going to get 10% off. And again, you're going to support COS. 10% goes to COS to support the movement and the mission. So appreciate you guys. One last thing. I got to promote another one. Honestly, we don't even get anything for this, but eGuard watches. If you go to eGuard Watch Company, EGARD watchcompany.com, look up eGuard watches. My friend Elon Shrulovitz over there. Best watches ever, and a great patriot who's willing to put it all on the line for America. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, right? Great patriots willing to put it all online, all on the line for America. And I'm going to ask you at some point in this battle cry this Sunday night, what are you willing to put on the line for America? And I mean you personally. I don't mean you generically. I mean I'm talking to you. Yeah, I know you're eating dinner. You maybe got spaghetti sauce on your face. I can't see that, but I am talking to you. I know you're out there and you're watching, and I'm going to want to know what you're willing to put on the line. I'm going to ask you to put something on the line. So stay tuned. If that scares you, you might want to jump off. I'm going to start with somebody who is not such a great patriot, in my opinion. That's Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon and the Washington Post. In a really stunning reversal, I mean, really incredible reversal, Jeff Bezos has come out against mail-in ballots. Maybe the first liberal in the country to do that, right? Against mail-in ballots for himself. Let me explain. It's not that he's against mail-in ballots. He doesn't mind mail-in ballots and widespread potential abuse of mail-in ballots. He doesn't mind that in an election because he thinks that might benefit he and his friends and the cronies that he serves. Like, he might believe that, but what he's against mail-in ballots for is for Amazon, for unionization. Apparently, one of Amazon's warehouse facilities in Alabama is voting on unionization. National Labor Relations Board has ruled that based on COVID outbreak at the plant, some like 375 people out of over 2,500 people have been diagnosed with COVID. And so they want to be able to do mail-in balloting for a union election. Nope. No way, man. Amazon is against that because, it's just bad. You can't allow mail-in voting. And he doesn't like that they defined an outbreak as almost 10% or over 10% of his workforce. That's not an outbreak. And we can't possibly have mail-in voting. That's just a bad, terrible thing because they might unionize our plant. Yeah. There's an old saying that sometimes the American electorate gets what they deserve, good and hard. This is Jeff Bezos getting what he deserves, good and hard. For those of you trying to unionize Jeff Bezos, I'm not generally a big fan of unions. In this case, go get him, Tigers. Yeah, get Jeff Bezos. And let's do lots of mail-in balloting. In fact, I think we should let dead people vote in Jeff Bezos's election there at Amazon to determine whether there's a union. And I actually think we should not really count the ballots. I think the pro-union people should count the ballots themselves. That's what I'd like to see. So congratulations to the folks trying to unionize Jeff Bezos's Amazon plant, Amazon warehouse in Alabama, who won on the mail-in voting. Good luck, Jeff. Not really. All right. Joe Biden's destruction of America has begun apace. He has now signed over 30 executive orders It's incredible what's going on. I don't know if you saw, I don't have the video for this because I didn't ask producer G to grab it. I was grabbing this at the last minute. There's video on the internet. You can look this up. Joe Biden signing executive orders, right? Not unusual. We get footage of presidents signing executive orders. It's, kind of a cool thing to see. They give away the pens and all, fancy schmancy. But Biden is signing executive orders, and he says, I have no idea what I'm signing. You can actually hear him say this. This is not doctored video. This is the real thing. And then he just goes ahead and signs it anyway. Yeah. But remember, no challenging the president's mental competence. You're not allowed to do that. Just not allowed to do it. Won't be allowed in the media. Nobody in the media. Can you imagine if Trump was signing an executive order and on camera said, I don't know what I'm signing, and then he signed it anyway? You see somebody point to his hand and he goes ahead and signs it anyway? Yeah, that there'd be calls. 25th Amendment. We have to remove him from office. Where's Mike Pence? Now, Biden's not mentally competent. I think that's absolutely clear. It's undeniable. Here's other video footage you can look up online that will blow your mind. Joe Biden walking up the steps to the Capitol in very dramatic fashion. A lot of steps. Good for Joe. He got in his steps today. He and Jill Biden, not Dr. Jill. I'm not going to call her Dr. Jill, but Jill Biden, the first lady, walking up the steps. And as he walks through the door, clearly the guy's wearing an earpiece and people are muttering things to him in his earpiece. And he just like mutters them in response. So somebody has clearly said in his earpiece, salute the Marines. He's walking through the doors and there are Marines standing there saluting him. And instead of, a crisp salute to the Marines, nope. Old crazy Uncle Joe, senile, mentally deficient, mentally incompetent Uncle Joe mutters, salute the Marines. Like it's just literally somebody says it in his earpiece, comes out of the mouth. Remember the movie Anchorman? I love Anchorman, Ron Burgundy. Remember when Anchorman, they just put it on the teleprompter? It's like if you put it on the teleprompter, Ron Burgundy will read it. If you put it in his earpiece, Joe Biden will say it. They're going to have trouble with this because they've got an earpiece in him and they're telling him to do things and he's unable to distinguish between whether they're telling him to do something like salute the Marines, whether they're telling him to say something. He's mentally deficient. He's mentally incompetent. If there's ever been a time for the 25th Amendment, it's now, except then you would get President Harris. But really, is that any worse? You have to ask yourself that question because she's actually president right now because he is mentally incompetent. I don't believe for 1 second that he's running the country. If you believe he's running the country, maybe you are mentally deficient. Maybe you've got to check that out. What I think is going on, to be honest with you, inside the Harris-Biden administration is there's a plan. I mean, they're devious. I think this is the plan. He needs to serve 2 years and 1 day. If he serves less than 2 years sitting in that seat at 1600 Pennsylvania and Harris takes over for him, then it counts as a term for her. If he serves just more than 2 years, then what happens is when Harris takes over, it doesn't count as a term. She gets to run twice more. She could be potentially a 10-year president, right? I mean, I think that's the plan. That's my opinion of what the plan is because she's running things and the staff are running things now anyway. Joe Biden's not. So you can write it down on the calendar. I said it on this day on the BattleCry. 2 years and 1 day or thereabouts, they start to announce Joe Biden's having health problems. Joe Biden is sick. Joe Biden is ill. He can't continue as president. And they're going to get Kamala Harris as president. Going to be some interesting times. There's all kinds of complicated issues around that, by the way. Who ends up being vice president? How does that work? It gets appointed. Is there advice and consent? It's a weird deal. We'll talk about that on another show. We'll bring my good friend Rick Green on, and he and I will discuss it because he understands all this stuff. All right, so Biden's reign of destruction has begun. He's signing all these executive orders. It is now okay, by the way, according to executive order, for men to be in women's bathrooms, and very specifically for those of you who have kids in public schools, for young men to be in the bathrooms and locker rooms of young women. That sounds terrifying, doesn't it? It's true. And by the way, my daughter experienced this during the Obama administration at her high school. Young men who, quote unquote, identified as women were allowed in the locker room, were allowed in the bathrooms. This is horrifying. If you're not horrified by this, then you've been indoctrinated. Men and women are different. Men under no circumstances, males under no circumstances should be in female bathrooms. And by the way, if you're a woman who supports men being in your bathroom, have you ever been in a men's bathroom? Right? It's disgusting. You don't want men in your bathroom. You really don't. And we shouldn't be doing this. This is absurd. This is disgusting, but this is part of what Biden has wrought. This is what he's doing. He's also prevented the border, he's signing executive orders to allow refugee immigrants to come across the border. And they are flooding towards the border at this point, by the way. It's really horrifying. We're going to see more of this horror, more of illegal immigrants pouring into the country. Thank God for Texas's Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's filed litigation on this issue, pushing back against the parade of horribles being instituted by Joe Biden. That being said, one of the things that I'm amazed by is how few Republicans are pushing back. Where are the champions on Capitol Hill? Where are your champions? Where are our champions? People who are going to push back against policies that are offensive. And I just want to be clear, not pushing back against Joe Biden because he's a Democrat, not pushing back against Joe Biden because I want him to fail, pushing back against really bad policies. Where is the Republican leadership? What is their plan? Because I'm not hearing one. I'm not hearing a plan. I'm not hearing a plan from most Republican governors. I'm not hearing a plan from Republican attorneys general other than Ken Paxton in Texas. Why aren't there 30 such lawsuits, 25 such lawsuits? Where are all the other states? Where is the pushback against Biden on terrible, horrible policies? Are Republicans just going to fold? It seems like it. I mean, that seems like what they usually do. So to you Republicans out there, if you're a Republican, but I don't register Republican. We don't have that in Texas, didn't have it in California. To you Republicans out there, I certainly hope that you are pressing on your elected representatives to get up off their backsides and actually do something. It's really horrifying what's going on. Now, here's something that's not horrifying, because occasionally good things happen, even in an America where it seems like everything's gone crazy. Today, a professional football player spoke the truth, the actual, unadulterated, intelligent, clear, calm proof. How long till he's canceled? That football player, by the way, was Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, one of the greatest football players, the greatest quarterbacks ever to live. I think that's undeniable. Having an incredible year, obviously. By the way, I have not watched a game, and I'm not going to watch a game. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Aaron Rodgers was apparently on a radio program today and said that, he thinks that we shouldn't look to politicians for solutions. He said politicians are never going to do the right thing. He pointed out the political hypocrisy of politicians shutting down businesses, saying that we shouldn't wear, or we should wear masks, saying that we can't travel, and then doing all of those things themselves, going out to dinner, not wearing masks, traveling. He pointed out the hypocrisy. He did. So what's going to happen? Is he going to get canceled? Because this seems to be the way now, right? If you actually speak the truth, if you're a public figure, and especially athletes or actors or anybody like that, and you speak the truth, you get canceled. The woke mob comes after you. So I imagine at this point, it is only a matter of time before the woke mob comes after Aaron Rodgers. And this is what I have to say to Mr. Rodgers. Oh, not that Mr. Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron, great job. Keep speaking the truth. Don't fold. Let your talent speak for itself. If you want to speak on politics, go ahead. Speak the truth and don't be afraid. So I'm impressed by Rodgers. We'll see if he gets canceled. I stand for him not being canceled. All right. We have impeachment going on. I would call this impeachment gate. It's a scandal. It's outrageous. The House of Representatives, with no evidence, no testimony, no actual hearing other than people bloviating on the floor of the House of Representatives, votes to impeach the president, goes over to the Senate. I think the whole thing's unconstitutional. I think it's outrageous. Impeachment is specifically a mechanism for removal from office. It is aimed, and the only people that can be impeached, the president, vice president, judiciary, these are people who can be impeached from office, right? Office holders. Donald Trump is not an office holder. Donald Trump, in case the Democrats haven't been able to get this out of their head, their nightmare, is not the president. So how can you impeach somebody? How can you hold a trial to convict somebody on articles of impeachment when that person is not an office holder? The answer is you can't. The way to spell impeachment right now is F-I-A-S-C-O, fiasco. This is a fiasco. It's fake. It's a sham. By the way, it's just like the last time they tried to do the impeachment, different reasons, but it was a scam and a sham. This is, again, the sham wow impeachment. We coined that term last week. We're going to keep using it. It's a fiasco, sham wow impeachment. And if you say those things, you will be silenced. Just like I was talking about Aaron Rodgers, you might be silenced for this because we're experiencing right now in our society the great silencing. So, where does that come from? And what's it mean for our society? Look, we are a society that is fundamentally based on the idea of free speech. The idea that not only will I allow people I agree with to speak freely, but that I'll allow you, who I might not agree with, who might actually say things that are repulsive and offensive and egregious to me, I'll allow you to speak. I'll not only allow you to speak, but I'll actually fight and defend your right to free speech. That's a foundational bedrock of our society. And that bedrock is being severely undermined. There are a lot of people out there now, especially younger people, who think that we shouldn't be allowed to say things that they don't agree with. That people on their campuses who say things they don't agree with should be shouted down. That that's how you practice free speech. That they should be prohibited from coming onto campus. And we used to say, oh, that's limited to campus. It's not. Now it's in corporations. Now it's in the public sphere. Now it's companies like Parler getting wiped from the internet, movements like #walkaway. Both, by the way, organizations I'm trying to help get back up and running and on their feet because I believe in free speech. It is a bedrock principle of free societies. It is a bedrock principle of the United States of America. If we don't protect the right to free speech, we are not a free people. And where is this coming from? It is coming from an underlying ideology which is infecting the radical left in America, and it is the fascist ideology. And we got to talk a little bit about fascism because this term has been thrown around much too loosely in America. Everybody on the left referred to Donald Trump as a fascist, right? He's a fascist. He is a fascist. We heard it over and over again. Anybody who supports Donald Trump is a fascist. And if you ask 99% of those people to define fascism, they can't do it. I'll tell you, it's kind of a hard thing to define because a lot of the governments that have been declared fascist over time, the Nazis, the Italians under Mussolini, you could say that Stalin was a fascist. You could say that Mao is a fascist of sorts. All of these different sort of forms of fascism are kind of different. They're not exactly the same. And so the question becomes, what is the real form of fascism? What is the root definition of fascism? You may have heard me say this before, but it bears repeating, and I'm going to repeat it over and over because it's important that this makes its way into your consciousness, into the broader American consciousness. And I need you to be able to repeat it and define it and talk about it. Fascism, as defined by Mussolini, who was the man who declared himself a fascist, who declared his government fascist. So really, I think the defining man behind fascism, the defining political philosopher behind fascism, he defined it as everything inside the state, nothing outside of the state, and nothing against the state. Okay, I'm going to do that again. You may want to write this down. I think it's really important that we start saying this. Fascism is everything in the state, nothing outside of the state, and nothing against the state. Those three things are fascism. Now, I want you to apply that to the American left today. The American left believes in huge government. There's nothing that the government can't accomplish, right? There's no sphere where the government shouldn't be involved, right? It should be involved in marriage. It should be involved in how your car is made, what kind of gas you can put in your car, what kind of paint you can put on your house, what the fabric has to be made out of for your clothing and your bedding, what kind of toilet you can have in your house, the environment, energy, education, all of these things the left believes that government should be involved in. So nothing outside of the state, right? Nothing outside of government's reach. That's fascism. Number two, right? So everything inside of government. So they get to do all of this. They're actually the same thing, right? It's just a corollary. Everything inside, nothing outside. We can go through more of those examples, but it's the same thing. If everything is inside, then nothing is outside. It's redundant. Those are just corollaries. The second, really, or third, if you want to call it that, is nothing against the state. And we are seeing this now in a cooperative oligarchy between the press, the tech giants who are actually now part of the press, the flow of information in America, and government. That if you speak out against this idea of everything inside the state and nothing outside the state, you should be silenced. Right? So we've seen this. We've seen #walkaway erased from Facebook, their merchant account terminated. Constant Contact has terminated their mail account. Again, we're trying to help those guys get back up and running. You should support them. Go to walkawayfoundation.com and support Brandon Straka and the folks over there. They're good people doing good work. People might not agree with them, but they're not doing anything wrong or violent or evil or vile. And so they've been erased, right? Because they are against the state. They say government should be smaller. Government shouldn't do anything. People should be free to think as they wish. Parler, in my opinion, the quintessential example. What you have is, I think you have an antitrust violative conspiracy by Amazon to take them off of their app store, by Google to take them off of their app store. By Apple to take them off the app store, Google to take them off the app store, Amazon then wiping out their web hosting in violation of their contract, in my opinion. So now you have nothing against the state. We're not allowed to speak against the state. MailChimp is a mail email services provider. It's our email services provider. And they are now apparently reading everybody's emails, including ours. So we're all going to have to find alternatives, because the great silencing is upon us. And this always happens, always, 100% of the time, in the rise of a fascist state. Whatever the flavor, Maoism, Stalinism, Nazism, which was called democratic socialism, right? In all of those cases, dissent has to be silenced and everything has to be brought under the control of the state. Look at Venezuela right now. And so it's always the same. Fascism is always the same. It is totalitarian, and we are facing that right now. So that is the great silencing that is upon us. There are two things I'm going to be talking a lot about in the future: the great silencing, and it ties into the great decoupling. How do we solve our problems? We separate. We stay in one nation, but we separate. We just do a few things together under a federalist system. Speaking of separating and taking the power away from Washington, D.C., I get a lot of questions about the status of convention states. It's hotter than ever. We're getting more inquiries than ever. The volunteers are flowing in. If you're not a volunteer, you should be. www.conventionofstates.com. Go ahead and click on Take Action. So what you want to do is you want to sign the petition. You want to get in the system. You want to take action. You want to volunteer. I've been all over the country so far. I've been in Idaho, Wisconsin, and Montana. Coming up, I'm going to be in South Dakota. Can somebody send me someplace warm soon? I'm going to all the cold places in the country right now, but it's great. I love it. I've been out in the field with people. I was in the Montana legislature. You can go look on their website or on our website, and you can see the hearing there. Went really well in Montana. I think we look really good in all those states this year. It's going to be a good year for Convention of States. So go to www.conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, click on the Take Action tab, get involved. We need you. Absolutely. All right. Now, I told you I was going to give you an action item, and this is really important. So I think the remaining power that you and I have in the United States of America is consumer. You spend a lot of money. You make a car payment. You make a house payment. You buy things. You buy groceries. You shop in stores. You shop online. If you're like me, God, I hate to admit this, but I shop on Amazon. It's hard not to shop on Amazon these days. They've captured the market. It's easy. It's simple. It's efficient. I'm going to just tell you, as a company and how they operate, I like Amazon. It makes my life better. What they're doing politically is terrible. And that's true for a lot of these companies. Most of these big companies now, they've been woke. They're pushing a bunch of horrible ideas on America. They're telling you America's an evil, vile, systemically racist place. They're pushing values on us and our children that we don't agree with. They hate people like me, especially. I'm a middle-aged white male, right? So they hate us and they denigrate us and they say we're white supremacists no matter what. And yet we continue to give them our money. You know who the most powerful block of consumers are in America? They are older Americans, right? They are millennial Americans, baby boomer Americans. And the older people get, the more conservative they tend to skew, moderate to conservative. We have the biggest block of consumer power in the United States of America. So the question is, what are we going to do with it? Well, like what I want these companies to do, honestly, what I want Amazon to do, honestly, what I want the NFL to do, honestly, I don't expect them to be conservative. I don't need them to reflect my values. Like, I want the NFL to be a sports league that I can watch for sports entertainment, not for wokeism. I want ESPN to be a network that I just watch because maybe I'm interested in sports commentary. I'm not interested in what they think of politics. I don't need their wokeism. I don't need them to lecture me about the country. And I want them to stop doing that. What I want them to do is just get the hell out of politics and social issues. I just don't want them involved in those things. And I want to patronize companies that are either share my values, which is fine, but that's really not what I'm pushing for. I'm pushing for apolitical companies. Just get the hell out of my political space. Not interested in what you think about politics. And I'm certainly not interested in having to spend money with you to try to enforce policies and politics in which I don't believe. So here's my proposition. I think that come the Super Bowl, who's ever in it, if it's your team, if it's going to be the greatest game in history, I don't care. I'm not watching the damn Super Bowl. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. The NFL has gone woke. Every company that's going to advertise on the Super Bowl has gone woke. They're pushing things on you and your neighbors and your friends and your kids and our society that you don't believe in. You don't believe in it. And when you watch it, when you give it your ratings, you support that. So I think that we as Americans need to take a stand. We as conservatives, as libertarians, need to take a stand, a consumer stand against this. Like, I'm not trying to punish these companies. I'm not a big fan of boycotts. We may get there, but right now I'm just saying we need to show them that we have consumer power and we're sick and tired of their crap. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl, and I'm going to encourage all of you not to watch the Super Bowl. And I'm going to encourage all of you to encourage all your friends to take a pledge, all of us together, not to watch the Super Bowl. And let's watch and let's celebrate as their ratings plunge. I'm going to predict to you that this is going to take off like wildfire. We're going to witness the lowest ratings in Super Bowl history. And you're going to take part in that. And you're going to do that. And if you're thinking to yourself, but I love the Super Bowl and I always have a Super Bowl party and me and my friends get together and we watch the Super Bowl, and that's what you're thinking, then I'm just going to ask you a really simple question. If it's too much to ask of you to not watch the Super Bowl, if that's a bar too high, then what are you willing to do to save your country? Really, what are you willing to do? If that's too much to ask, then what? Is there anything you're willing to do? So I'm giving up the Super Bowl. I hope you're going to give up the Super Bowl. We're going to talk a lot more about this as the Super Bowl gets closer and closer. I'm hoping a lot of other people join us. Don't watch the Super Bowl. Hashtag boycott the Super Bowl. All right, we're going to go to producer G. He's got a bunch of questions and comments from you guys. So first is from Janice Sayre, who wants to know, what is Convention of States? Hey, I'm so glad you're here, Janice. A Convention of States is a process contained in Article 5 of the United States Constitution. It allows the states to get together in a convention to propose amendments to the Constitution to restrain the power of the federal government. It takes 34 states to apply for such a convention. Before we get there, 2/3 of states. Once we do, we can discuss taking the power away from the federal government, imposing term limits, and imposing fiscal restraints on Washington, D.C. Very popular. 15 states out of the necessary 34 have already passed it. That is a convention of states. Gregory Schwartz wants to know, what's taking so long for Convention of States? Is it even real? Well, if you mean by real, does it exist? Yeah, it's possible. It's in the Constitution. Why is it taking so long? Because the founders designed it that way. They wanted to make sure we couldn't just do it and get it done really easily and change the Constitution really rapidly. That's why it takes so long. Kevin Bale says, I've joined COS. I'm a veteran and I will do whatever it takes. God bless you, Kevin, for both, for joining and for being willing to do whatever it takes and being a veteran. Jackie Greenway says, since Biden's apparently calling the shots all by himself, why do we even need Congress? We need Congress because we need people who will stop the president, but that's not happening right now. John Bartolick says, who do you think is in Biden's ear? I don't know who's actually speaking in Biden's ear. I have no idea, but somebody clearly is. Laura Orton says, who's really running the country? I think that's the staff. I think it's probably partially the vice president, but hard to say. Let's see. What is Convention of States going to do about this mess? We're going to take the power away from D.C., going to give it back to the people in the states. That's what the founders intended. Brad Myrick says, how many more states do we need? 19 more to go. Les Draper says, how did Montana go? We kicked butt. It was absolutely awesome. Raina Kuhn says, how can we fight executive orders? Through a convention of states? We can take the power away from the president to sign the kind of broad-reaching orders he's signing right now. Jim Walker says, I spoke to an aide to a state senator who said they get 100 to 1 COS emails compared to other issues. That's because of you guys. God bless you guys. I love you. Great comments, great questions. More next time. I'm going to take more time. I'm going to do less subjects, take more time to focus on your comments and questions, because that's the best part. Don't forget, go to markmeckler.com and get signed up. markmeckler.com. We need you there. We need you participating in the community. Go to defender-gear.com, defender-gear.com to get the cool shirts and hats and all the stuff I wear. I go there and put in COS Action 10 for 10% off. God bless you guys. Love you. And we'll see you next week on the BattleCry.